Need for Speed Underground is 20 years old. What?
Need for speed. I got a 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 need for speed.
So, imagine that you're a 5-year-old me for a second. Your only experience with gaming so far is on an old Windows 98 PC, playing stuff like Space Cadet Himble and Ski Jump Deluxe. Then at the age of 5, you move to a country that looks like this, with people that look like this, and food that looks like this, and to make the transition a bit less hellish, for Christmas that year you get a PS2. And with it, Need for Speed Underground. Imagine what it must have been like to go from games that look like this, to a game that looks like this. Well, okay, it probably looked more like this, and being played on a small 4x3 SD TV that still probably remembered Czechoslovakia, but still, you get my point. It was absolutely mind-blowing for 5-year-old me, and not only kickstarted my love for the franchise, but for gaming in general. So let's unpack the 20 years since the launch of what became the next generation of Need for Speed games, and what remains to this point one of the better racing games of all time. Because this game was not only great at the time and holds a lot of nostalgia value for me, if you couldn't tell already, but also amazes me how this game that is now 20 manages to do so many things better than even modern Need for Speed games. So let's start at, well, the start. If you have no idea what happened in a cutscene, don't worry, that's kind of a recurring theme. I don't know why, but all the cutscenes are so fast-paced, and combined with the compression, literally can't tell what's even going on or what the story is. And yeah, there is actually a story. Well, as much of a story as you need in a simple racing game from the early 2000s. The story basically boils down to be the best racer there ever was, make a whole city love you, beat Mr. Chad Chaddington over here, and get the girl. Ooh. Yeah, Melissa did look a lot better in the marketing material, didn't she? Yeah, transforming real actors into their digital counterparts still had a long way to go at this point. But who cares about the story? The story's for losers, and we're here about racing fast, which the game gets to rather quickly as you enter your first race with the now iconic white and red Acura Type R. But uh-oh, turns out that was just a dream, and you're just a loser with the most normie car possible. And that is where you get your first choice of car. Being able to choose between a Volkswagen Golf, a Honda Civic, a Peugeot 206, a Mazda MX-5, or a Dodge Neon. And come on, it's a game about import tuners, so if you go for anything other than a Honda and a Mazda, you're officially playing it wrong. Then your buddy Samantha gives you a quick rundown on how the racing scene here works, and while you're off to the races. Literally, being let loose to become the best racer in Olympic City. And oh man, Olympic City, how much I love this place. And no, it's not just because of nostalgia, I promise. There's so many reasons why this city still stands out even after so many years. I mean, who can forget racing through Chinatown, or the metro station, or that dried up river thingy where you'd always get stuck on those dumb pillars that... Sorry? Where was I? What I'm trying to say is that, well, it's iconic, and has the kind of attention to detail that games somehow failed to match since. I mean, just compare Olympic City Chinatown to Lakeshore's Chinatown. Sure, while the latter may look a lot better graphically, but it just feels so much more sparsely decorated, and as if a lot less care has actually gone into making the place feel atmospheric, while the second you enter Chinatown in Olympic City, you feel it, and the atmosphere of the place seeps in through every pore in your body. The city itself is just so creatively designed as well. There's so many areas that just look nice and you'd want to live in. There's also a lot of areas where you probably wouldn't want to live in. In fact, everything builds into this amazing atmosphere the game has, starting with the music, which is primarily, well, late 90s to early 2000s rock and hip hop, which while I've never been a fan of the latter, I can actually tolerate it in this game. Again, I don't know if it's just nostalgia talking, but the hip-hop in this is actually tolerable when compared to, once again, newer Need for Speed games. And I promise I'll try to keep the complaining about modern NFS games to minimum, but they're making it kind of hard for me. Anyway, the soundtrack is great, and it's pretty much everything you'd expect from a game from this time period. And it just fits so perfectly as you're racing through the tight slums and the, bombed out buildings? It's not just the music, but the entire language of the game's interface and user experience also adds into it. The kind of off-cyan tone is iconic from a mile away, as well as all of those individual icons that are now stable Need for Speed, and are just 100 times more visually appealing than just the, well, boring and bland text that we have in modern games. And don't get me started on that famous Infinite Tunnel. And that skyline. That orange skyline greeting you every time you boot up the game. Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows in Olympic City, and my biggest gripe with the map overall is that it makes literally no sense. The geography of the city is just off. Like, for example, you can be in the dead center of it, and then one tunnel later you're apparently at what's supposed to be the airport, which has like tall buildings around it, and it feels like it's literally in the city center. I mean, especially for the early 2000s, that seems very insensitive. Or how at one moment you can be going down a glamorous neon-filled street and the other you're in a junkyard? Why? Who designed this city? Now, I suspect it's mainly because they could get away with all of this, seeing how there is no open world. Olympic City as a whole feels like a toy train set model of a city rather than a real, believable city, which is a pretty big shame. But I understand that they prioritize the areas being diverse and fun to race around over the city making actually any sense. Moreover, while all the little set pieces and environment designs are nice and diverse, you'll still be seeing them a lot, as you'll be quickly find yourself racing through the same areas over and over and over again. Which is a real shame, because taking a step back, there is so much that Olympic City can offer that we just never see. That's one of the reasons why I also love the brand new drag races, because they're set on exclusive, long tracks that actually allow you to see the most of the city of any race type in the game. You get to see new corners of Olympic City you can't see otherwise, and the only issue is that you can only see them while going very, very fast, while keeping your eye at the RPM gauge the whole time. So, you know, you win some, you lose some. Oh yeah, and speaking of, I should probably talk about the race types a bit, huh? And here's the thing, racing games are inherently very, very repetitive. That's why it's so important for the developers to include as many varied race types as possible, and it has always infuriated me when brand new Need for Speed games show up with less modes than their predecessors. Obviously, there's your regulars like Circuit and Sprint, but it's also two new guys, starting off with drifting, which is, well, exactly what it sounds like. Slide through corners with as much style as possible, and avoid hitting anything. Well, okay, there's more to it, like multipliers, the bonus zone at the edge, etc, etc, but it is pretty simple, and you know what? I actually love it more than most modern interpretations of drifting in Need for Speed. In modern Need for Speed games, I told you I'd stop complaining about them soon, but not yet, you pretty much can't compete in any drift events unless you have a very specific car with some very specific tuning. In Underground, however, any car can drift, no modifications required. I just always assume they put some drift tires on your car off screen or something. Is this approach realistic? No, it is not, but do I care? Not one bit, because again, it means I'm actually able to enjoy the game mode since the start of the game, instead of the game gatekeeping me from one of the most fun race types, just because I don't have a car that fits some very specific requirements, just for the chance of not coming dead last in a drift event. Next is drag racing, which is also pretty much self-explanatory. It's the only game mode where you need to manually change gears, and all you have to do is just basically do it in time a few times like it's a QTE sequence. Don't blow your engine, don't hit anything, you get the idea. And okay, I don't drive in real life, so when you change the gear at just the right moment, I don't know how realistic it is for you to get a speed boost like it's Mario Kart, but whatever, for a game, it worked pretty well. There's also lap knockout, which is basically just a circuit, but at the end of each lap, the player in last gets eliminated. Time trials, which are once again pretty self-explanatory, and also tournaments, which bundle several of the same race type together. Now, the way these events get divvied out to players seems a bit odd by our modern standards. Basically, when you complete one set of challenges, another just appears for you to pick and choose from. But you still have to do all of them, slowly climbing the leaderboards, while a doomsday counter in the top right always reminds you exactly how many races you have left to do, and how much fun with the game you have left. But what do you get for completing these races? Well, money for one, as well as unlocking new cosmetics and performance parts for your car, alongside probably the most early odds thing yet, getting your car on the cover of various magazines. Does it serve a purpose apart from attracting the target demographic by having covers with girls on them? Nope. But it's just so pointless that I love it. Speaking of the car upgrades, it's about time we talk about it, seeing how the massive improvements to customization are one of the big selling points of the game at the time. Both visually and performance wise, there's a lot more options on display here. With everything ranging from modifying the body of the car, to rims, to neons, to lights, tinted glass, plenty of painting options, and of course one of the biggest, the vinyl customization, which there is a lot of. Now, apart from making a car that appeals specifically to your fantasy, there is a point to all of this customization, of course, that being the reputation system, which, I mean, I'm sure it does something. And sure, playing car dress up is fun enough, but of course the most important upgrades are the performance ones, so you can actually keep up with the competition. And I just love how first gen this system feels, seeing how for each part you can choose from several packages, which don't vary in any way, apart from theoretically including parts from different aftermarket car part manufacturers, which literally don't affect anything gameplay wise, and are mainly there as an opportunity to name drop some popular companies at a time to make the petrolhead dude bros of the time gush over. There is quite a bit of that kind of pandering in this game, by the way. Like, for example, even though the manual states that this scene has absolutely no sponsors, you can still apply sponsor decals on your car, ranging from small to absolutely ginormous. But yeah, the confusing economics of this world aside, there's not much to complain about customization wise. But one of the biggest issues is the money and the fact that you just have too much of it. Now, the game actually does use a pretty interesting system when it comes to giving the player money. That is, before every race you can choose the difficulty, and the more difficult it is, the more money you earn as a reward. That is a pretty sweet system and allows you to customize your experience every single race, and this achieves something so many games struggle with, that being actually rewarding the player for playing on a much higher difficulty. However, even with this system, unless you play every single race on the easiest difficulty and you, I don't know, spend all your money on repainting your car between every race, you never run out. And even very early into the game, you already have way too much money than you know what to do with, and unlockable rewards just don't keep up. And it just absolutely falls apart towards the end, seeing how the final races award you with, you guessed it, the most money, all while there's pretty much nothing left to unlock or even spend it on. And it makes me just wish there was more stuff to actually unlock or customize towards the end, but it is still a game from the early 2000s, so of course there's only so much they could do. And after you race enough, sit through some more confusing cutscenes that try to convey some kind of story, you finally race Eddie, you beat him, then Melissa wants to race you, and you beat her as well. Congrats, you made it. You're now the best racer that ever was. The end. Yeah, the ending isn't much to write home about, but again, if you came for a satisfying story from a racing game from 2003, then I don't know what to tell you. From then, the only things you can do are quick races against either AI or other people if you're lucky enough to have friends, though honestly, I can't imagine how hellish playing split-screen multiplayer must have been with the displays on the market when this game came out. And that's it. That is Need for Speed Underground. While as much as I like to think I'm being objective, this game definitely has a lot of nostalgia for me. But at the same time, it always amazed me exactly how many things it does manage to do right that so many other games fail at. Now, it isn't perfect by any means, and there's a lot of things to complain about. There's definitely a lot of jankiness that comes with the kind of innovative and creative spirit of this title, and its attempts at making you look as cool and epic as possible sometimes fall flat. Like, for example, the action cam, which sure can look cool at first, but then you quickly realize that because of it, you can't see any approaching dangers. Oh, and the physics are absolutely mental. The physics can be so bad they make Sir Isaac Newton spin in his grave. I'm pretty sure the cars in this game weigh less than me, because a collision will catapult your car upwards like it's Team Rocket, or I don't know, maybe your car just died in a collision and it's now ascending to car heaven or something. Combined with the fact that sometimes you just can't see things in front of you, it makes things very annoying when you have to restart the race for the 50th time because you hit something you just didn't see and lost the lead with no way of getting it back. I'm pretty sure the cars are programmed to be so light to make all the epic jumps look that much more, well, epic. However, However, even the infamous bridge jumps, which was such a selling point even in the trailers, do get old pretty fast. It is something they pretty much fixed with the very next game, seeing how the roads of Bayview are very flat by comparison, and there's pretty much no opportunities anywhere on the map for airtime. Which sure, you could argue is boring, but at the same time, it alleviated the issue of people throwing their controllers against the wall because they hit a car they literally couldn't see coming. But still, I think I made a point clear that this game is still pretty amazing, and I recommend it to pretty much everyone. That is, if you can get your hands on it, because it hasn't been re-released in any way whatsoever, so you'd probably be like me trying to hunt down original versions of the game. There is of course probably the most popular version, the PS2 one, though it's also available on Xbox and also the GameCube, and given its superior hardware, it should provide the best console experience of the game. But of course, nothing will beat the PC experience with a good controller. And if like me, you do have a Windows XP era PC to play such games with, you can even use modern Bluetooth controllers like for the Xbox with it, and it even works with modern wheels and pedals as well, which is so much more fun than it has any right to be. And with actual button remapping options, it objectively has better wheel support than even Need for Speed Unbound. Now that's embarrassing. Now there is a giant caveat to it, and apparently Windows 11 does break some DRM that the game requires, so you probably have to play it on an older machine, or if you can't be bothered hunting down the few remaining copies of the game, then you can always just, you know. But still, it hurts so much we haven't seen any re-release of it since then. But whatever, maybe they'll do something for the 20th anniversary, because this is a game everyone deserves to play. It's that good. But while Need for Speed Underground laid a foundation for an excellent racing game, Need for Speed Underground 2 took it to the next level. And to this day, I still firmly believe that Underground 2 is the best racing game ever made. Yes, I went there. But we'll talk more about that when that game turns 20, which is, wait, next year already? Well then, see you then, I guess. Oh yeah, and don't forget to subscribe for when that sequel drops next year.